Hey everybody, this is Abby from Realistic Kitchen and Gardens. Today we're going to be going over the 2026 garden plan, which is subject to change a little bit. If you've never watched this video from me before, it's a bit long, it's very detailed, it kind of jumps around because my brain moves too fast sometimes. The app or program I'm using is Garden Planner, which I specifically get through Territorial Seeds. It is paid for each year. I think it's like 30 bucks a year. And the main goal is companion planting. It gives you a rough idea of plans, but companions, and it also focuses a lot on crop rotation too. So it has you follow a general plan. Let me run through this quickly. It starts a cycle at purple alliums, which is garlic, onions, that kind of thing. Turquoise legumes, which are beans, peas, and like peanuts, that kind of thing. Green brassicas, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, that kind of thing. Followed by yellow nightshades, which are potatoes, peppers, tomatoes, eggplants, that kind of thing. And then it has you go into gray neutrals, which they're vegetable-wise, there aren't that many. It's usually flowers like okra, which is technically a flower, but it has an edible pod. It's in the hibiscus family, but flowers otherwise. And then orange carrot family, carrots, parsnips, fennel, and then orangey pink cucurbit family. For me, I grow a lot of these. Surprisingly, only one row this year, though. Melons, gourds, cucumbers, squashes, all that is in the pink cucurbit family. And then dark pink beet family you won't see on this one. If I grow any, it's usually in the fall. So spinach, obviously beets, that kind of thing. So we've got that out of the way. Let me point this out really quick before I forget. This brown line in the middle is 30 feet. My rows are 60 feet long, about 2 feet wide. I have 10 rows that I indicate A to J so that I can figure out what row I'm even in when I'm out there and translate it from here to the ground, because otherwise I would probably have stuff everywhere. And the gray is the paths, and you'll see these little fence posts. If these indicate the 16-foot wide but 4-foot tall pieces of cattle panel trellis, and these indicate cattle panel trellis archways. These cattle panel arches are going to be put in the ground on the northern edge of the row. The plant will be obviously planted in a sane spot in the row, and then the arch will go over across the path and lay on this perimeter fence. So it's a little bit different than I usually do, and I'll anchor it over here so it doesn't go crazy. But my plan is that it will have a little bit more distance to go and keep it from going over here at all. My butter and squash kind of escaped this way last year, and I don't want that again. New here. Welcome, enjoy the chaos, sit back and relax. 25 more minutes of me rambling. Row A, watermelons. I'm going to try a new variety called Crimson Sweet, which is a little bit smaller but more oriented towards northern growers. I had an issue with Dixie Queen last year. It was a huge, gorgeous melon. The seeds were stupidly large. So I don't think Crimson Sweet is completely seedless, but they're very, very small seeds, which I can tolerate. Excelsior pickling cucumber. I grew this last year, and it was extremely prolific, both regular pickling cucumber size and the little gherkin size. Those will grow up this little trellis here. And with these melons last year, I did oyas, which are little like clay pots that have a cork on top, and you fill them with water, and it waters the plants a lot more evenly and keeps the soil very evenly moist. You need that with melons, otherwise they get kind of strange and can be bitter too. I will potentially be trying to do spineless beauty zucchini, which is a bush type right underneath my Excelsior pickling because they go upright and they're pretty naked at the bottom. And I'm also going to do some Provence lavender, which is a very medicinal smelling variety, to try to combat squash vine borers, which were ridiculous last year with my zucchini. I think I got 4 really big baseball bat type out of them, which was plenty for me. Not that it's my way to eat them, but I've also dedicated section in this row to actual paths because last year I only had the panels go straight all the way across, so I couldn't even cross halfway between, and it drove me bonkers. So I'll get a little less growing room per se, but at least I can squeeze myself between. Hannah's Choice Cantaloupe I'm going to be growing again. They did great. I did 4 plants last year and I got, I think, 28 fruit off them, but I'm going to stagger them in 2 sets. That's why they're in 2. I'm going to do one a little bit earlier and one a smidge later so that there's 2 smaller crops rather than one big crop later. Sari's butternut squash I will grow again, but I'm only going to grow 1 because of the 4 plants I grew in 2025. I got 44 fruits. So I'm not doing that again. A new novelty for me is birdhouse gourd, which it has a long season, as does loofah, jumping ahead a little bit. But we'll see how this goes. It's just a novelty. I wanted to see how it does. So all of these are hot season crops. So I'll start them indoors in mid-April and then transplant them out a month later in mid-May when they're a decent size, but not ridiculous. It kind of jumps ahead of the big cucumber beetle infestation, but it also gets me fruit faster. Huzzah. And then in March, I will be seeding out 2 different peas. And I'm also potentially going to be trying transplanting. So I may do half transplanted and half direct sown just to see how it goes. But Frito World Snow Pea is a very tall type pea. And the other variety is Super Sugar Snap. Again, a tall variety, but it's a true sugar snap pea. My son is 1 now as I'm making this video in December. I'm sure he'll love all these crunchy things in the garden. Another path, sunflowers in betwixt, and I'm going to try a new pumpkin variety next year, Jarradale, which I think are gorgeous. I'm not hell-bent on this variety. It may change, but Jarradale is a gorgeous, like, soft powder blue type rind that has very exaggerated grooves of pumpkin, and they're just gorgeous. We'll see if I grow them. I have the seeds already, so I should grow them, but we'll see what I find buying seeds in January. First elegance lavender in between here to see if I can ward off squash vine borers. Squash vine borers love pumpkins. They like them more than butternut squashes, and I don't know about the loofah or the birdhouse. That'll be a new one to me. The last path, and then I'll have Summer Dance, which is a tried and true long slicer type for me. They were stupidly prolific this year in 2025. I did, of the 2 plants, I got 150 pounds of cucumbers just off these 2 plants. So I guess I'll do 2 again because that sounds sane. We also love cucumber. We eat it like chips. It's fine. I mentioned the loofah already. I want to grow for sponges, the classic quote-unquote dishcloth type loofah. And I'll have lemon balm at the end here. Row B will be covered in a cover crop first thing in the spring to help protect the ground because this entire row won't be planted until May or June for parsnips and July for carrots, which I'm going to make seed tapes again this year. Make seed tapes for myself. But I already have pelleted seed for both. I had abysmal germination in the fall. The spring did well, spring of 2025, but not the fall. Bah humbug. Row C will be onions. I get my onions from Dixondale Farms. I think they're out of Texas, but I could have made that up. You buy them in bunches, which is minimally 48 plants. It can be more. It frequently is more, but I usually just pick the largest plants out of it. So I'll get 4 bunches of Patterson, which is a average apple size. Very good storage variety, technically yellow type, very mild yellow though, it's not hot. And then a red onion, haven't decided variety yet, and 2 bunches of sterling, which is a white onion. This isn't strictly a sweet white onion, it's just a white onion. I've gone over the garlic. I'm going to go in previous post, but I'm going to grow 4 new varieties of softneck garlic, and I'm going to keep growing my hardneck garlic in a small amount just so I keep my seed store intact in case I don't do well with the softneck. My primary reason I want to change to softneck garlic is for improved storage and for not having to deal with scapes, because hardnecks produce flower stalks, which are also called scapes. The softnecks will be in Chilium red, I'm sure I mispronounced that, silver white, Lourdes Italian, and Nootka rose. Hardnecks are Ivan, Adonai, Medici, Armenian, and Georgian crystal. And then when I planted these 4 varieties of soft, when I ended up down here at the last maybe quarter of the row, I had a bunch of random little pieces left, so I just threw them in here for extra. And this isn't technically correct. This is full, but sometimes things don't translate perfectly from the ground into this program. Row E, spring carrots, will be seeded out in March. Again, I'm going to make seed tape, but I'm also going to try a new variety called Berlin from Gurney's Seeds. And in 2025 spring, I grew a row of shallots right next to it, and I'm going to do that again. I do need to figure out a cover crop here because it gets very weedy after the carrots are out. I think they come out usually in June, early July, something like that. It's 75 days from seed, so however that math works. And then I'm going to purposely start growing a bunch of lavender. I really like the buds. I did Provence, which is very medicinal. Munstead, I didn't really like. I've tried Elegance from Seed and Head Cote, which, or however you pronounce it, which is great for buds. So I'm going to buy a few more plants of that and grow it specifically. And then I'm going to get a new variety of sunflower this year, Sonia, which is a flower vase type sunflower, very similar, like size-wise, to Florenza, but not as ornamental. It's just a classic bright yellow, like the picture. And of course, I'll grow Florenza throughout. And then pole beans, I'm going to work on a new trellis system because the trellis system did not work very well last year. So that's pending, but I'm going to grow a bunch of pole beans because I really liked it. I didn't think I would, but last year Carmenat did really well, although they were tough, and the purpose of previously growing purple beans is now moot because I can find the beans really well on the trellis. So I'm going to grow a very classic, easy variety of beans. I am going to grow amaranth again this year. I'm going to be pretty strict about pruning it though. And I'm going to try Love Lies Bleeding, which is like a burgundy color. Row F, I'm going to grow some, they call it baby broccoli. This was the OG variety of quote unquote broccoli that looks like broccolini, skinny little broccoli sprigs. So I'm going to try a bunch of that. We really like it in the spring. It seems like a spring only crop. And then I'm going to do 4 of Katerina. I'm going to give Katerina another try. It's supposed to be a small green cabbage that is good for my area, but Tiara has always been a tried and true gal for me. Fall of 25, I had a cover crop that included radishes right next to some of my broccoli, and that seemed to be doing really well against pest damage. So I'm going to try doing radishes just scattered in betwixt all of my brassicas to see if it helps keep pests out. Because last year I did my first round of not covering my brassicas and they grew a lot better, but I did have to spray them fairly often with BT, which is just a bacteria that targets caterpillars. I'm going to grow the same batch of corn that I did last year, Solstice and Kickoff, which are super sweet, and they're both from Gurney's. But I'm going to grow wild violet petunia on the ground to try to keep weeds out. It's a very small flowered but very sprawling type. And then I'm going to try a number of varieties of, this year I'm focusing on flowers, darn it, because I'll love it. This is going to be the section that is like a blend. So Benary's variety giant zinnias, similar to what Cherry Queen zinnia looked like, the double blooms, but bigger and more colors. And then Pincushion scabiosa. This is a gorgeous flower. I'm going to try a color variety of straw flower. I do like straw flower for dried flowers to have in the house in the winter. And then China asters are going to, oh God, I love these so much. They, to me, look almost like peonies. And I will never grow peonies. They're such a pain in the butt. Oh, I'm so excited. These are from Eden Seeds. And then I'm growing way fewer tomatoes this year. I'm going to be growing 2 plants of Defiant tomato, which is that round slicer type. And then I'm going to be growing 6 or 7 Supremo. These little bars are just spaces for me to keep track of. They're going to be 2.5 feet apart this year. But Supremo is a great paste tomato that I loved growing. And 2 more Bartelli. Also, this section of tomatoes will have 2 cattle panels to make an alley in between to try to keep these plants from going everywhere. Try to keep them a little more neat. I will be trying a new drip system for my potatoes to see if I can improve crops growing, see if they do better. I've had very bad luck with my potatoes the past 2 years. To be fair, one of the years had a drought. The other year, I don't know what happened, but we'll see. I'm going to do Desiree red potatoes again, potentially. I'm going to try a new gold variety called Satina Gold. Gold potatoes are allegedly the most prolific. I may do Corolla again, though, or Eva gold potato I grew this year, and they stored really well, which is most what I'm looking for. My gold variety is up in the air. And then Caribou Russet grew this year, did okay. I may also do Rocky Mountain again. And then this row gets crazy. I'm going to try a new plant that is, strictly speaking, an eggplant. But it is strictly ornamental for me. It is pumpkin on a stick, if you've ever seen them. They're fun and stupid and whatever, but I'm going to try to grow them. In this entire row, I'm going to grow Blue Better Salvia, which I grew last year but didn't have as a companion, but it's a purple variety of salvia. And then I'm also going to be doing the Bonfire Salvia again. Super hardy, flowered the whole year. God, I loved it. I'm doing that again. And then I'm going to be doing a lot of basil. I'm going to be doing okra all together in a bunch rather than between the peppers again, like I did in 2025. I think it ended up causing more trouble than good. So, potentially starting indoors. I have tried doing that before and it doesn't work great. I'm also going to try doing calendula as a ground cover for them. This calendula is a Fiesta Mix Dwarf. It's super low to the ground. I grew it at the previous half-acre house. 1 sweet banana pepper plant, salvia. I'm going to be trying 2 new sweet bell pepper varieties from Gurney's. I'm going to be trying Mega Gold and Giant 2. We'll see. I got burned last year on Gurney's pepper mix and they gave me a refund for the seed. So I'm going to basically use that refund for these 2 varieties of peppers. They're also the best place to get the burgundy sprouting broccoli if you've seen me grow it in the fall and winter. I don't usually grow it in the spring. So I'm going to just do back and forth between gold, red, gold, red, gold, red. We love bell peppers, but I did not get basically any in 2025 because of seed mix-up. Bah humbug. I will always try to grow celeriac. It's a root variety of celery, kind of like how brassicas are all the same plant and they're just specifically bred to grow different sections. This is celery that you grow for a big root bulb, kind of like a closest description would be a potato, but it obviously has that nice celery flavor. The greens are also, of course, edible and usable. I usually dry them for a celery powder. And then I will do more sorbet formula pansy violas in between. That was fun and they were super prolific and even flowered throughout the summer. And then I'm going to try Tango stock celery again. I think I didn't harvest them soon enough and they ended up looking super ratchet and rotting in the ground, but we'll see how it goes. I will never know how to pronounce this plant. Agosht. It's basically anise hyssop, but it's specifically grown not to be an herb. It's specifically grown to be a flower. This is specifically an Arizona mix that is made by being sold by, I think it's Park Seeds. So there's a pink one, an orange one, and a yellow one. And then I'll tuck those on either side of the rhubarb. I did get 2 rhubarb crowns from the farmer that I usually buy my stuff from if it fails on me. But I planted them in the fall, so we'll see if they actually survive. Lastly is, I'm going to blitz through this. Sensation Mix Cosmos, which is going to sincerely look like this blend. It's the pink, white, and deeper pink. And then Iron Purple Stalk is a tall flower, but I got a deep, deep purple. There's a wildflower called Ironwood that's this gorgeous purple. So that's what I'm growing there. And then Deft Blue Nigella is a typical Nigella, just like the picture, but the flowers are much more on the lavender purple side. So I'm doing, at this point, a reverse rainbow. Pink, white, purple, purple, blue, classic blue borage, and then allegedly this is edible in cucumbery, but I can't stand the little tickles, the little prickly stems. Giant orange and giant yellow marigolds. They look great in bouquets, and I love marigolds anyway. Cherokee Sunset Rudbeckia. Oh, the color of this is gorgeous. I'm going to try direct sowing this because it apparently direct sows just fine because it was in a mix. I think it was down in one of these rows in summer of last year, 2025. And the Rudbeckia self-sowed perfectly fine. Rudbeckia is also Black-Eyed Susan. And then Roulette Coreopsis, also a close favorite to my heart is Coreopsis. But this is a deep red. We got Flavorfest strawberries. There's not that many plants anymore, but it works for this spacing or paper on program. Flavorfest strawberry I got in August as started plants and have covered them and they're overwintering. We'll see how they do. In the spring, I'm going to do some chives in the empty holes of where some of the little strawberries died off. For some reason, there's a piece of cattle panel there. I don't know why. But the strawberries were about $70, including shipping, because they were live plants, not dormant plants, which are way cheaper and you plant in the spring. But these will need to produce at least 25 pounds of fruit across the like 20 surviving plants that out of the I think 36 plants I got to make it financially quote unquote worthwhile. But even if I don't get that much fruit, strawberries are like never ending because they produce little pups and you can take the pups or the runners, sorry. You can take the little runners and you can transplant them and you get whole new fresh plants every year. I'm going to do another patch of strawberries here in the first half, the western half of row F, once my spring brassicas are out. So that'll be fun. And we'll see how it goes. But anyway, comment below what variety tickles your fancy or is most intriguing to you, what your tried and true favorite plants are, and what you're most excited for this year. I don't even know what I'm most excited for. Maybe Emerite, because I love fresh green beans. All right, I blitzed through the second half of that. But if you like this kind of stuff, please like, comment, and subscribe for more, and follow along to see what other harebrained ideas I come up with for the 2026 garden.